Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
that's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Discover a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a co-founder of the Go Kid Go network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. During her journey, Isla meets new friends, including King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, and learns valuable life lessons with every quest, sword fight, and dragon ride. Positive and uplifting stories remind us all about the importance of kindness, friendship, honesty, and positivity. Join me and an all-star cast of actors including Liam Neeson, Emily Blunt, Kristen Bell, Chris Hemsworth, among many others, in welcoming the Search for the Silver Lining podcast to the Go Kid Go network by listening today. Look for the Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Don't Blame Me. Hi. How are you? Who are you? Who are we? Who am I? What is this?
Are you having an existential crisis?
I think in order to have an existential crisis, you have to have big thoughts. And right now I'm in my Joey Tribbiani era. I am no thoughts, just vibes.
Okay. Well, I'm Melissa Diamond Montz, and this is Megan Rinks, and we are the host of this here podcast, Don't Blame Me.
We're also hosts of another podcast, But Am I Wrong? And we also have 2 other episodes of our podcast multiverse that come out during the week. We are here for you 4 days a week because 5 days a week would just be too much.
Yeah. Missed opportunity.
On hump
you
day?
said that. Nope. Because you said that you're in your Joey Tribbiani era, and then you said, we're here for you.
I'll be there for you. Facts. I organically, that wasn't even, it was sometimes I love self-references. So we were watching Friends last night and Mott's and I were just dying at Joey. And I was like, every time I rewatch the show, I decide who's my favorite character, for that rewatch. And right now I'm loving Joey. And I literally have a draft saved on Twitter that says, I'm in my Joey Tribbiani era. And then I just have a bunch of pictures of him from the show. And nobody knows that was a reference in this conversation to my tweet that I haven't sent out. But for me, it was as the head writer and showrunner of my life, I just gave myself kudos for the referential joke.
You lost me somewhere along there, but gotcha.
Melissa, okay. I don't know if I had anyone there except for me. Okay. That's how my brain works. I'm it's so hard to get those words out when you're you should know how perfectly and just organized and just visual and just all that is in my head. And then when I try and say the words, no thoughts, just vibes.
Okay. Well,
what is this podcast? What do we do here? Do we give blowjobs? Do we give?
Sometimes, but that's not part of the podcast.
No, that's what we do on our off time. Is none of your fucking business. What do we give?
We give advice, thoughts, opinions, sometimes vibes too, as you said. People can call in to the show at 310-694-0736.
0976. Bitch, I knew it.
Because I never say it. I never say it.
I'm not knocking you for not knowing it. I'm knocking me for hearing different numbers and going, I don't think that's right.
It didn't feel right. It didn't feel right. I was these last few numbers, I don't know what's coming out.
That's where I get caught too. I'm always oh, I don't know if these are it.
I think I might have said the number out loud twice on this show. So
this is the second time. I remember the first time, and I was so impressed because you did it quicker with more confidence than I have as somebody who says it once a week for years.
Well, you'll figure it out. If you don't, information's in the show notes. I'm pointing down as if I'm on a YouTube video, but if you do have the video, it is on our Patreon, which, you know, if you want to sign up for $5 a month, you can get this show plus some live streams. $6 a month, you can get this show plus our other show, But Am I Wrong? And the live streams, or $1 a month and just get this show. And what I mean by this show is the video for the show. And if I'm pointing down, the number and email, the number is down there, and email address if you're international.
You know what I was going to say? You know how Oprah was like, you get a car, you get a car. Think of us, but like, instead of giving everyone cars, we're not on a primetime budget. So we're just giving you free advice.
She wasn't on a primetime budget either. She was on a
at that
daytime
time
budget. Yeah, she's always daytime. She has, I mean, her budget is exponential, but she's
Melisa,
a daytime.
This is the moment that I have realized that primetime, I meant network budget, not because I was like primetime. I was like, not the time of day. And then I go, no, Megan, you said primetime. That is the after dinner spot. So, you know,
yes.
She has a network budget. We have a student film budget.
And indie.
We have an indie budget.
Pure indie. And that's not a lie.
A24 is not a real indie. And also, you know something crazy? I mean, you know this, but to the audience, a movie that's $2 million is an indie movie. Like,
I know.
That's the part that's so wild that, like, you could spend lots of money and have it be an indie.
Yeah.
So,
we're low budget.
And if you want us to have a higher budget, just know you can go onto Patreon and enter in any amount you would like to give us per month, and we will happily take it. Like, we thank you. We appreciate it. We're here to receive your money if you've got money to give to us.
If you'd like to bless us,
please. What'd you
my
say?
mouth. I was saying bless, but I said bless us. My mouth malfunctioned on me.
I thought it was just the video skipping for me, and I was like,
no,
okay. It was like jumping over your words, but it kind of sounded like bless up. I was like, yeah, bless up.
Yeah, kind of sounded like that.
Anyways, like Melissa said, we're going to be giving you wonderful, amazing, life-changing advice. And if you're wondering how we are qualified to give you advice, because you're not Oprah, first of all, you don't know that. Second of all, because we have been a part of Oprah's favorite things for going on 15 years now. So if Oprah is a friend of the show and we have Oprah's seal of approval, imagine we edited on the Oprah's pick onto our podcast logo.
I'm sure there's some trademark thing there,
so
but we'd have to make a parody version of it.
I'm literally writing down fake Oprah logo on our podcast.
Yeah, I think you should put fake at the bottom of it just to stay protected. But
Oprah's own future favorite. If Oprah listened, she would like it. Or we do one for Gail. Gail's favorite, but we do a G instead of the. That'd be pretty.
Oh, that's
pretty cute.
That's it.
It's pretty cute. Gail. So that's all we have to say on that subject. So stop asking for our credentials. Those are protected by HIPAA. So, like, please stop. I'm obsessed with everybody thinking that everything's a HIPAA violation.
Covers everything. I can't tell you my vaccination status because that's covered by HIPAA. Are you a doctor? Is this your personal information?
One acronym and then they go, I'm good for now. Thank you. They heard one acronym and they're like, that's all I need. It's all I fucking need. Being loud and wrong. That's my culture. It is my culture. So we're going to give you wonderful advice. So for your calls and for your voice memos, international people, you have to keep it all under 3 minutes. And the best way to make use of your time is we demand. We pretend there's an invisible us yelling at you saying, come on, do it. Write down everything that you want to say, like literally a script, then practice a couple times with a timer to make sure you're under those 3 minutes. and include things like your age. It's all anonymous. We don't need names. But if it's about relationships, how long you've been together, friendships, give us all of the relevant information so we can give you the best advice. We don't need like the little nitty gritty of, we don't need your zodiac sign. Like, unless you got extra time, sure, throw it out there. But we can give you the best advice when we have the best information that really pertains to the advice that we're giving. So,
yeah. I was going to say, if you think somebody's a shitty person, please give us specific examples, because we can't just judge them based on a blanket statement.
Yeah. Anytime it's something like that, and we've had it in the last like couple of episodes when people be like, well, and then there's like all this other shit I could get into. Like,
get into it.
We also like, we absolutely love when you're like, oh, I love listening to the podcast forever. Like this, like our egos are fine. Like, you can cut that out if that means that you can give us more. Like, we want the most drama there is. Don't leave any of that out. Like, give it us all. I'm starving. I am so hungry. My plate is not full. Throw some more drama onto it. That's what we're here for. And read it when you are recording. That's like the best way to do it. And even as a listener, if you listen to a couple episodes, you will find that the calls that you like the most, the calls that are like the most like, what the fuck? This is great. I'm following along really well. Those are the people who write them down and then read them when they record. And you can potentially get a diamond from Melisa. And we have one listener who has been a caller twice and has gotten, they have gotten 2 diamonds for the 2 times they've called. And they got a diamond or whatever. You said diamond dust, something adjacent for when we read one of their reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And, they feel great about themselves. Like, they love that. And that could be you.
Could be you.
Could be you.
I do want to say, I noticed in the last episode, it seemed like we were cutting each other off. We are recording virtual for the holidays. So there's a delay. And when I think, and I'm sure Megan thinks the same thing, that there's a break in conversation, it sounds like it on our delayed side, but not actually in the recording. So please forgive us if we're talking over each other. If this was just audio, we'd be able to separate it. But since there's video, we can't do that.
Yeah. And as somebody who does not do well in silences, I always am just throwing in another thing here. And I end up we end up talking over each other a lot. So we appreciate the understanding. And it can be like the beginning of quarantine. People are like, oh my gosh, like their vibes are weird. Like, are they fighting? It's like,
no. Virtual isn't perfect.
No. And we don't fight. Also, we don't fight with each other, but we also don't fight with other people. We're ghosters. If we the podcast would just suddenly end and you'd never hear from us again.
All right. Shall we get into the calls?
We should. I think it's a good call.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I'm 25. I use she, her pronouns. And the guy in this call is 30, uses he, him pronouns. For a little bit of context, I am an actor, and this summer I had a small role in my first ever feature, which was a huge win for me career-wise, but also was like a great time socially, and I felt really embodied. On the set, it was like mostly female, except the cinematographer basically, and I developed like a little crush on him, and all the women on set were like vouching for him, and they'd worked for him, so that made me like him more. And I didn't want to make anything weird, so I like waited until the wrap party, but I had been like telling all my friends like, I like really have a crush on the cinematographer. He's like so hot and fun. And I really want to hook up with him after the wrap party, but I wasn't sure if it was going to happen because I wasn't sure if he liked me like that. But anyway, he was. And we hooked up that night, and I woke up the next day like truly rejuvenated. Like the sex was so good in the most like run of the mill way. Like I don't know how to explain it besides life affirming and like good wet sex, as you guys would say. Like he was a foreplay king and I squirted. Like I never do that. So that was crazy. But after we hung out, we didn't hang out again for like a month and a half because like one, I think we were both busy. He was out of town, I was out of town. And 2, neither of us were like initiating anything, but eventually like I replied to one of his Instagram stories and he was like, we should get drinks or whatever. And then we hung out and had sex again and it was so fun. And then again, it took another like 2 months for us to hang out again because of life shit. And like, we're not really friends, so we don't talk often or see each other often. So it's not like normal to just be like, hey, we should hang out, or like it to just come up naturally. It has to be planned. And I think neither of us are really like taking the time to plan shit because it feels like formal dates and stuff, you know? And the thing is, I don't really think I want to be in a relationship with him because he's like a 30-year-old cishet white dude whose like life is so different than mine. But I'm in a place in my life where, like, I don't really want to date anyone, and so that's good. And every time I hook up with him, I'm like, okay, this is, like, so fun, and I need to be doing more of it. But this is coming from a person with low libido, too. So, like, it's just, I have never had that much fun having sex with someone. But I've never really been in this position where I wanted to have sex with someone a lot who, like, wasn't my friend or person I was dating. So, yeah, I also struggle with initiating conversations like this because I'm afraid of rejection, and both of us are kind of avoidant people. And I feel like this is exactly the kind of low-stakes sexual relationship I want right now. And I want to just be like, hey, I really like having sex with you, and I want to do it more often if that's, like, fun for you too. But I don't know how I'm supposed to say that. I'm so anxious right now. I'm talking so fast. So fucking weird and so new. I'd love your advice on, like, what I should say. And also, I want to know what sign Meghan thinks I am, because I feel like I'm not coming off like gay right now. Anyway, thank you so much. Love you guys so much. Bye.
I have no idea what sign you are, because the only thing I can say is the only guess I have is a Leo, because this is very Leo, and mostly because this is me. This is why I am so glad that I am no longer single, because it is all fun and games to hook up with someone who you work with on a set, because you're like, not going to see this person again, like whatever it is. Town gets really small and it can get really bad. Like, the amount of friends that I have had where they, like, run into, like, hair and makeup and was like, oh my fucking God, like, this person I hooked up with is, like, day playing, is, like, here for one day, like, what the fuck? And, it's all, like, fun giggles and laughing until, like, one day it's not a fun giggles and laughing situation. Like, it's actually gets in the way of doing your job or whatever it is. This is a hilarious call. I knew exactly where you were going when you were like, there's one male cinematographer. And I'm like, yep. And we're hooking up at the rap party. Like, that's just how it is. So I don't think you need to tell him anything. Like, you said that you don't want a relationship and you just want to, like, enjoy and continue just hooking up. You are doing that. Like, that's what's happening right now. Like, so I don't think that you need to say any of that. But if you're trying to, like, if you're like, I feel like we should have a conversation, then it might be because you feel like you actually do have started to develop some feelings for him, or that you think he might have developed feelings. But you brought up your fear of rejection. And so, like, you can't be rejected from something that you're already doing. Like, you're hooking up with him when you both have the time and energy to, like, reach out and, like, hook up. So that's already happening. You're not going to be rejected from that. So I don't want to infer that maybe you do. Maybe there's a part of you that thinks, like, you has said that you deal with low libido and you've never had this much fun having sex before. Maybe there's, like, a part of you that is like, oh, this is probably what this is supposed to feel like with, like, your person. And so now I need to, like, get my emotions to catch up with, like, my body during sex with this. But you don't. But sometimes, and I don't know if I've said this before on the podcast or, like, something similar along the lines of it, is when you have someone who's, like, fulfilling the role of partner or, like, fuck buddy or whatever, if you have someone who's scratching that itch, if you don't let that itch go without being scratched, sometimes you won't look for it in other places. And so, like, before Mats and I started dating, I wasn't really, like, dating that much, because if I wanted to text someone late at night or talk to someone or flirt with someone, like, I would talk to him. And my friends were like, you either need to pursue this or you need to pursue it with somebody else, because right now he's playing that role for you. So you don't really have an incentive to seek that out anywhere else. And so I think, like, if you want this to be, like, what kickstarts your, like, hoe era, or, like, your whatever you want to, like, you kickstarts you having great, good, wet sex with other people and this new era of your life, that's, like, I'm all for that. But I think you should recognize if you feel like you are investing too much time in someone that you actually don't. It's like scratching, like, 70% of that itch. And, like, if this isn't what you want to spend your time doing with him and you would like to do it with other people, I think you might want to put him farther on the back burner. So, you are meeting new people and hooking up with other people like that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with a fuck buddy like this.
Yeah, I feel slightly different about this because to me, it sounds like that she wants to have him as a fuck buddy, but have it more often. But she doesn't want to communicate to him that, I want to do this more often, but she doesn't want him to think that it's because she's catching feelings for him. So
that would make sense.
Yeah. So I think, in this case, I believe that you should have a conversation with him in the sense of, I like what we're doing. I enjoy hooking up with you. This is the kind of like friendship I would like to have with you. I just would like to do it more often, not more as in I want to have deeper feelings and explore deeper feelings with you, but I want to continue to do exactly what we're doing, just more often.
You want like a dick appointment on the books, like a reoccurring.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So I do think like you should have a conversation with him and say, just say, hey, I like hooking up with you. This is fun. I'd like to do it more often. I like where we are now. We're good at being friends, and that's all I want, just more often.
Hell yeah. I will say though, I would know when you're getting into a fuck buddy situation, especially one where like we don't have coworkers in the same way, but like you need to consider him like a coworker. And we always say, don't shit where you eat. That does change a little bit in the industry because I'm like, don't do it when you're fucking filming. But
yeah, which she did. She waited till after.
You totally. But just know that like, know when to get out, because all these people who are like singing his praises and like all of that, like love him, all of that kind of stuff. Like you want to eventually, when you end the fuck buddy relationship, end it on a note that doesn't make your future jobs uncomfortable or make his future jobs uncomfortable. So if it like starts getting sticky, or if it starts like someone starts having like more feelings than the other person, you have to treat this like, I don't know, maybe like a coworker who is in a different, works on the other coast, but comes back.
As a podcast network, our first priority has always been audio and the stories we're able to share with you. But at Realm, we also sell some pretty cool merch, and organizing that was made both possible and easy with Shopify. When you think about successful businesses like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, an often overlooked secret is the business behind the business that makes selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. That's because nobody does selling better than Shopify. It's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret that's definitely worth talking about is that Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%. That's more happy customers and way more sales going. If you're hoping to grow your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm.
Like you have to treat it as a relationship that like you're going to have to inevitably, see and be around this person and have lots of mutual people. And you don't want that feeling where you're looking at a call sheet every time you get one and going, please don't see the name. Please don't see this name. Please don't see this name. And, I have one name that I'm like, oh God, please no, that would just be bad. And then I have another name that it's like, hey, we can't be there at the same time. This is not it. Like there's so you can't always live as much in the moment. Like you have to think about it pragmatically, which, if the sex is good, keep doing it as long as it's good and you're having a good time.
Agree.
See, this is the other, if you're afraid of rejection, there's also part of me that I'm just like, I would just start hitting him up more and seeing if he wants to like hook up, because I would rather that rejection if he's like not into it than me being like, I'd like to hook up more. And he's like, I'd like to have sex less. I'd be like, ugh.
Yeah, I think going off of that, I think maybe instead of let's go out and get drinks, you cut that part out of it.
Yeah. Or send like a sexy pic.
Because that feels like if you go out and get drinks before, that feels like you're dating. And if that's not what you want, then don't do that.
And that's just like foreplay with like no clit action. Like, you know, if let's get to if we're just trying to cut to the end, let's utilize our time. We're both busy adults. Let's do that. Like maybe send a sexy pic, and you know, that's actually a good call. If you instigate making it more fuck buddy-y and less of like the song and dance of like, oh, drinks, maybe dinner, and then ending up in that place, then I think that you might not even need to have that conversation, you know? Just naturally happens that way.
All right. Next call.
Yes.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. This is Jay. I am 34 and I'm non-binary, born in a female body. So my question is actually about the use of pronouns in social media. I have really complicated feelings about social media as I'm a white person and I used to be a model, so a lot of people have followed me and kind of like in an objectifying way, and I feel very uncomfortable with being objectified and sexualized against my consent. So that's been a lot of my experience. Secondly, after I learned more about Black Lives Matter and issues about race and class, I realized, and thin privilege, I realized how unhelpful it was for me to present myself on social media. And then thirdly, when I came out as non-binary, even to close friends or family, I've had really challenging responses, a lot of pushback, a lot of people just like not understanding, and that's okay with me, but I don't have a pronoun preference. I'm good with he, she, they, kind of whatever. And yet, when I say I don't have a pronoun preference, I had a lot of people call me it and say like, I don't know what to say about you and this or that, which is a little bit confusing to me because to me it feels like I'm including whatever personal pronouns you prefer to call me. Like basically you can't do wrong as long as you use personal pronoun. So just due to my experiences in those circumstances, I've really not wanted to include pronouns on my social media feeds, although they're now like standard, and none of them really apply to me. And I've also taken away my pronoun preferences or lack thereof in my school and work environment because I'm scared of how people will respond. So just curious how you feel about that and if you think that it's better to be vocal and just kind of deal with whatever happens so that I can stand strongly for others, or whether it's okay that I don't come forward about it, even though that makes me seem like maybe I'm not being helpful to other people. So thank you.
Your pronouns are your pronouns and you can do with them what you want. You don't have to be out here fighting other people's fights if that's not what you want. This is personal. It's about you. I mean, how we feel about it. I mean, we, used to require people after we started having people use pronouns, asking them to use them. We would say, definitely include your pronouns. And now we're like, because we realized that, there are people like you.
We overcorrected.
Yeah, we overcorrected. There are people like you that exist and don't care. Like, share our pronouns. Share your pronouns if you want to, but you don't have to. That's not for us to say. And we were wrong. And we know that we were wrong. And again, like, this is you. This is about what you want. And if people can't respect that, that's on them.
And anyone who refers to you as it is someone who didn't respect you point blank. And like, whether that's that they didn't respect you prior to knowing that you were non-binary with no personal pronoun preference, or that they didn't respect you because they're bigots because of that. Like, that's not, and I'm someone who is, not great at spelling, not the most great, not the greatest at quickly calling to memory things I learned in English class, but people know what pronouns are. And in turn, if you care about someone and you're confused when someone says that they have no personal pronoun preference, a person who respects you and cares about you and a good person would be like, again, if they didn't totally understand what that means, they would be like, oh, could you explain that a little bit more? I am a little confused. Do you mean that you don't want me to use any of like he, she, they pronouns? Or is there a different one you would prefer me to use? Or do you mean that you're okay with all of these within that. Like I, as someone who is like a cis woman, like I can't say that all questions come in good faith and all of them should be entertained the same, but never in my life have I had any interactions with someone who has a different experience with their body, with gender, with pronouns, with sexuality, with race, with anything, who's ever been upset that I asked a question. And maybe I didn't phrase a question great. And I would hope in those situations, and there's times where I haven't quite phrased questions well, and people will correct me on that instance. But never have I had an instance where someone's been like, I wish you didn't ask that. Like, I wish you would just, continue. I wish you would just made an executive decision to offend me and be offensive. And so you on the other side of that, like what we're both describing is it's not hard what we've done. Like it's bare minimum baseline. And you have dealt with like traumatic responses from people and of like, it's dehumanizing. And that was intentional on their end. That's not an accident. Like that's not something that you would do accidentally. And again, if you care about someone, you're going to do your research before you talk because you want to make sure you're not doing something like that, or you're going to have a big precursor, whatever it is. But like people get upset when you call babies it. People are upset when you call dogs it. Like that was an obvious thing. And so I think even taking all of that away, like Melissa said, like your pronouns and your preference, like it's literally whatever you want. You don't have to be a voice. You don't have to be an advocate. We've said this before, you don't have to be an advocate for a group that you are a part of. Like you can just exist. You can just exist and you don't need to deal with the potential repercussions in your school or work life or on social media to be like a face or a voice of any sort of group with whatever. Like you don't have to do that. Like that's not like paying your dues at all. Like you've had shitty fucking things that have happened with this. And like, that's not something that you have to take it.
You don't have to be a poster child for anything.
Yeah. Like you've already to deal with that. And like, you can draw a line in the sand of being like, yeah, I'm not dealing with that anymore. And like, that doesn't mean you're being deceptive. That doesn't mean that like, you're not giving people the opportunity to show you that they can like respect you. Like you're allowed to have been burned and then have that effect and change how you interact with other people to prevent you from getting hurt again. Even if none of those other people you're having interactions with would hurt you, you're allowed to withhold information or withhold sharing things with people until you know that you're going to be supported. That's like, I wouldn't be offended if someone did that to me at all. I would not. Like, I would never be offended, even if it was like a close friend and they were like, I just wanted to like, have a conversation with you later and like suss out whatever more. I wouldn't be hurt. I would be like, that's that. Like, I'm happy for whatever I can do for you and whatever vessel. But you also like, you started on modeling and you have being objectified and all of that shit. Like, no, like you had bad responses from friends and family. I don't think anybody would assume that would make you want to be even more vocal about that on social media. It's like strangers you don't know. So
you just do you.
Yeah. And when I see someone who doesn't have pronouns in like their social media or whatever, I don't automatically assume that person is like, oh, that person doesn't believe in pronouns, quote unquote, the Fox News thing where it's like, dare you to make a sentence with that one. Like that's not the assumption that I have. I think like Melissa said, I think we overcorrected in ours. And I do think that social media and cultures are shifting in that sense as well. That I think now we're starting to see there are people who don't have pronouns in their bios for safety. There are like all of these different things. And I think there's been a little bit more of a shift here, I would hope, because I think that especially on social media, the demanding of people to tell strangers what their pronouns are, what their sexual orientation is, all of these different things. I think that we kind of hit a peak with problematic nature of that in the last like probably 2 years or something. And I hope and I think, but again, that's not my community to know for sure. But as someone who, you know, how we of course corrected in our own podcast, I hope that people are starting to level out in the sense of when we expect people to disclose everything, and then when we first expect everyone, like, don't ask, don't tell, this is so taboo, and then it becomes, oh, everyone needs to tell us everything and owe us everything.
Absolutely has to do it. No one has to do anything.
Yeah. It feels like acceptance at gunpoint. Like it's like threatening, accept. Like we're really inclusive. We're going to accept you, but I need to know where to put you. I need to know what box to put you in and do all of this other stuff. Like that's so much more about people who are consuming you, whether friends, family, people who follow you versus you. Like, so protect your peace. Fuck anyone who claims that they don't know what pronouns to use for you. Besides it.
Yeah. You
have my permission to slap them in the air. You have my permission to haunt them.
All right, we're going to take a break now. We're back from our break. Next call?
Yes.
Dear Meghan and Melisa, I'm a 22-year-old Taurus, she, her, who just graduated from undergrad in the spring. I went to school about 2 hours from my house at a small school and lived off campus in the city nearby starting sophomore year. I was able to make friends, but like many, my college experience was interrupted. When I returned in the fall of 2021, the beginning of my senior year, everything was different. All the friends I had made bonded throughout the pandemic because they stayed on campus while I stayed with my parents for financial and safety reasons. I tried to hang out with them throughout my time there, but plans would always fall through, mostly because they did not respond to my texts when they were going and just went without me. This actually happened the night before graduation, and I was devastated. I was all ready to go, and I was actually waiting for a reply when I saw that they were already hanging out after watching somebody's story. And I just felt so stupid. It made me realize that I had failed to make real friends during my 4-ish years there. That was really hard for me because not only did I feel like I was robbed of a true college experience that I really craved, but I had nothing to show for my 4 years other than a piece of paper. To give context, my parents are really controlling, to the point of having an 8:30 curfew every night. Needless to say, I don't have many friends other than my boyfriend of 5 years and my best friend of 10 years who is off at vet school. So not being able to have that and seeing all of them posting stories and having a great time together, even now, is kind of painful to see. I guess what I'm looking for advice-wise is, how do I not feel like this, and how can I make adult friends? I think I should also mention that I am a nanny in online grad school, so there's no hope of making friends there, but I do live near a big city, so there's that. So any advice that you could provide as far as this goes would be great. Thanks.
That is awful. Like,
those people are assholes.
No, and that's no fault of yours. Like, that's not like, oh, I failed to make true friends. Like, it's hard to look at like friendships that end badly or where you like burned in the end. It's hard to look at it. It's easy to look at in absolutes. And I don't know if you have like good memories of them from like the beginning of school. And like, but like, if it was me, I would rewrite as much of it as you can as to, oh yeah, I had a couple of these friends freshman year, and then they ceased to exist afterwards with that, because the circumstances, like, I don't want you to think that your picker is off or like you picked bad people. Like, I think like COVID brought out the worst in people. I think there are some people who already sucked, and I think it made it worse. I think there are some people who, if COVID never happened, that their lives would be pretty different now. Like, I think there are some people who the only way that they were going to become this person is if they dealt with a fucking pandemic. Like, that's just like really all there is to it. And I don't think this is a you problem at all. Like, you have so much to show for school, like just having a piece of paper and looking at that, like, but you're telling me like you have a best friend you've had of 10 years and a boyfriend you've had for, I think you said 5, and you graduated college and you're doing online grad school and you're a nanny. Like you have so much to show for your life. Like that you've done amazing things. You've got a lot, and you don't have those friends, those people, because those people suck. They just fucking sucked. And if they did invite you out that night for grad school, like they still would have sucked. Like their behavior, they would have been shitty. And I think like it's really hard as someone who also had a really shitty college experience. I didn't even make it out with a little piece of paper. I had a hard time making good friends as an adult or like a late teen, early 20s. And the best thing that I ever did was realize that like my friendships don't have to look how everybody else's look. And not everybody can say that they've had friends that they've had since they were like, I've had friends since I was in diapers, and I've had the same, like I've had these people in my life for so long. And a lot of the people who I was, you know, felt burned by as friendships in my adult life, they didn't have those relationships. And so we all have different things, and we all have different things at different times. And I realized that I couldn't have everything without giving up things in my life. Like if I wanted to have all of these like fantastic college friends and all of that, then I might not have been able to maintain a long distance friendship with childhood friends. Like there's always this kind of give and take that happens. And it's really easy to look at what you don't have versus what you do have. And I found it a lot easier to make adult friends when I wasn't trying to kind of just check off a box and make adult friends. It was when I was, you know, I wasn't trying to impress people. I was doing things that I liked, and I was being myself in those instances. And I was gravitated towards other people who were also being themselves in those instances. But the times where I felt like I was trying to complete a mission and befriend people around my own age and do all of that stuff, like that's when I was going to fucking like One Oak on the weekends with girls like I don't even know their fucking names. And the friends that I've made as an adult, like you, Lily, Jesse, Cammy, other Cammy, like anyone, like Kyle, all of these other people. I'm like saying all the names of people who like I wouldn't feel weird, like, you know, saying their names on a podcast, but you know, all of these different adult friends, those are the ones that I had. And I made those friendships organically. And everyone else where I tried to do it for the sake of doing it, I don't talk to those people anymore. And it's kind of like furnishing a house or building a closet. Like it's a little bit at a time, and it's gradual. And that can feel hard because it doesn't look like how everybody else's looks, like with these large friend groups and, you know, big birthday dinners with like 30 people and all of that stuff. Like, but some people collect friends, and some people, like, you collect friends that are going to be there for a really long time, and other people, they cycle through friends, and not one is better than the other. But if you're a collector, not a cycler, focus on that strength.
Yeah. I think freshman year is a time where everybody is just kind of friends with everybody because you're excited to not be at home anymore. You're just more open to making friends. You're around a lot more people where it's friendship more by proximity because you're like mostly friends with people in your dorm. And I think once you got further into your sophomore year, if you would have still been on campus, I don't think you would have stayed friends with these people. You would have, like for me, when I started freshman year, I was in every club. I was, you know, making friends with everybody in my hall. I was going to every possible party that I could. Like, I was just like out here. But then sophomore year, I got more focused into joining things because I actually was interested in it. So my friends became a smaller group. It was still a pretty big group, but my friendship was more of a smaller group of specific people that I actually had the most in common with, because these were people that were interested in the same things that I was interested in. So I just want you to think about it. Like you wouldn't have continued to be friends with these people because they suck. Like they probably like, oh, she feels like, she's better than us because she left and whatever. But I don't want you to also think that you only left with a piece of paper. You left with an education that got you into grad school. You wouldn't be in grad school if you hadn't finished school. And like Meghan said, you've got a best friend, you've got a boyfriend. How to make adult friends. We've talked about this numerous times. But find, like, with your grad program, see if, I don't know if it's like a grad program that isn't local to where you live, but see if there's like special interest groups or people that are similar. Look on LinkedIn to see people that are in a similar profession that you want to be in. People have meetups and hangouts all the time. So see if there's meetups you can go to, because if there are people that are interested in the same thing that you're studying, or they have a degree in that, then those might be your people. Those would have been the people that were in the clubs that you were in, that you would have been in if you were in college. Go see if there's alumni meetups for your school. Join special interests. I mean, we've talked about all this before, but like the things that you're interested in, there's like clubs and things for the same things that you would have been into in college, just like the out of college version of it. So seek those things out. Look on Facebook, see, you said you're near a big city. Bumble has like a BFF feature where you can find friends. And I know a few people that have actually had a lot of success with that. Just look into things that you're actually interested in and go join it, go make a hobby out of it, and you'll find friends. You'll meet people.
Yeah, like it doesn't seem like you have a ton of free time. So spend your free time doing something that you like and you enjoy. And if friends come from there, like that's great. But friends aren't like an assignment in that way, that like, don't strain yourself like and push yourself.
With something like 5 million podcasts, finding a really good one can take a ton of time. So let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in each episode, we discuss topics that can be really helpful, like how to read people better, the psychology of crowds, or fun things like the story of Legos, or why you probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for horses. Something You Should Know is the name of it, wherever you get your podcasts.
And put grad school on the back burner and put all this, like, it's too much pressure on you and it's too much pressure on other people. And friendships aren't going to organically form. Like, that's just not what it's going to be. And like, I'm very anti-pity date. I'm also very anti-friend pity date. Like, I think that you should pursue friendships with people because you really like them as people. You're really interested in getting to know them as people, not because, oh, well, I don't have any good friends here, so like I might as well, like, okay, whatever. Like, it's just not, you're wasting both of your time. It's not fair to both of you there. And I've said it 1,000 times, but it is far more lonely. It's far worse to have shitty friends than to be alone. Like, it's just point blank. And this is a time where I definitely felt the absolute most pressure to like have friends. And it's also okay if sometimes you need to like mute people on social media who do have friend groups and friend circles in a social life that you don't have at this point. And you might have that eventually, or it might not be in the cards for you because that's not how you like interacting with people. And that's okay if you need to mute that. Like, that's absolutely fine. And just knowing that you don't need to have all of these different friendships. Sometimes you can also get really good quality friend time by scheduling a FaceTime date with your best friend. Like, I don't want you to then put that friendship on the back burner while you're pursuing other friendships, trying to kind of get that friendship, social interaction part of your life, like part of your week checked off. Because trying to make friends and like reach out to people, that doesn't fill you up the same way like quality time with people you care about does. So value that with anyone, with like a cousin, a family member, a coworker, whatever. Like, value positive social interaction time, because it's going to make you more inclined to seek out other interactions like that, or just have an eye for that when you see someone in passing, you meet someone in passing, you join a new hobby, it'll build up your confidence in that versus putting so much pressure on every interaction to result in like a lifelong friendship.
Right.
Truly fuck those people. And Melissa's right. Like literally nobody is after freshman year to senior year. Like that's I remember when like I was friends with seniors and they would tell me who they hung out with their freshman year. I was like, what? Like it was, yeah.
All right. Next call.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I am 22 years old and use she, her pronouns. I am calling because I don't think I've ever had an orgasm. It's not that I haven't tried. I have used many vibrators and have been masturbating for a long time. I do feel like when I do feel something, there is some build-up, but not a lot. And once I get to that peak point, it just goes away quickly. Sometimes it just feels like too much, and it isn't like a whole body thing. I don't know if that is an orgasm or not. If it is an orgasm, I feel like it might either be just a small one, or it's just that there might just be too hype around orgasms, for lack of better word. If that's possible. If it's not an orgasm, sorry, I don't know what else to try to get one. The closest that I've gotten has always been by myself. I've had a few partners, but they don't come close to getting me to that point, even if they go down on me. At this point, I'm just very frustrated and don't know what else to do. I've tried masturbating while tipsy or high because I heard that helps, and it did a little bit, but that it still doesn't happen. I watch porn and read erotica and still nothing. I even listened to the How Come podcast to see if I could learn anything that helps. I've even considered going to a sex therapist, but I just haven't had the means to do that without my parents finding out. So my question is to you, what does an orgasm feel like? What else do you think I could do to reach one? Do you think there's a possibility of there being a lot of hype around orgasms? I will say I've had some anxiety around STIs because of a past experience with a partner and a bit of religious guilt. I have worked on these issues in therapy. I hope you can help. I love the podcast, and if it helps, I'm a Libra. So thanks. Bye.
I was waiting for the last part, and then you hit us with a double whammy: anxiety around STIs and religious guilt.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how to explain what it feels like. I just think the first time that I had it,
if you have one, you'll know.
You know, like I just feel like the first times I was going, I'm also like, I hope my parents don't hear me talking.
I forgot you're at home.
My parents' house.
Big A's just at the door. Ear to the door.
Yeah.
Just about the whole family is stacked. Heads on heads.
So I'm going to be talking in code.
Okay. Love it. So if you're listening, now you can listen in code too.
Yes. So the first few times I was working towards it, when I felt it getting close, I got scared and stopped because I was like, what is the next thing?
Mm-hmm.
Like I was freaked out by what the thing was. And then like, I would say like I was there for like a year where I was just get really close and would be afraid to go over the threshold. And then the one time that I just kept going and I got there, it felt it feels like a rush, like a high, like, and the thing is every time, sometimes they feel the same, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's like to the point where everything's shaking. Sometimes it's just a little, a softer one that's going to put me to sleep. Sometimes it's like so much that I want more. It's just like, there's no way to really say it. And for everybody, it feels different too. And then, the fear and the guilt, I would say because of the fear, do it more with yourself, which you said you've been doing, but also how are you doing it? Because some people, their hands fine. I can't get off that way. I have to use, it's so much work. So, using a helper that buzzes, things like that. So, and also with those, you're going to get a different result. And it takes like trial and error to see what you actually like. Sometimes things are too much. Sometimes they're not enough. Sometimes even the sound can make you not into it anymore. Like
Yeah.
you have to find what works for you. Your environment can also make a difference. I mean, there's been times when I've literally woken up in the middle of the night, can't go back to sleep. So I'll do it just to go back to sleep. Like, what are you trying to achieve? Like, there are things that you have to think about, but also not think about. And when you haven't crossed that threshold, then it's really hard to know until you keep doing it. And then also I have a friend that can't, she was like, I just can't do it. But she can say the word, but I don't want to say it just in case they can hear. Female
Squirt?
Yes.
Okay.
They can do that.
I'm obsessed with that whispering. I need that to be your, when you text me, you just hear female ejaculation.
Yeah. So some friends that can do that, I can't do it, but she can. And I was like, but that is a form. Like you can do that. I can't. That's a different form of what I experience. So it just depends. And then some people, they just can't. And it might be because of the things that you explained, like the guilt and shame and fear. And with that, I would say talk to your therapist about it and see like what they recommend. It might be kind of scary to bring that up. I mean, you did talk about going to a specialized therapist for that, but maybe starting with your therapist to see what their thoughts are.
Well, sex and sexuality is a huge part of like religious guilt. So like your therapist, that should be a part of the conversation regardless. And I do think that that is playing a part, not only because you mentioned it, but because you there like, I wonder, are orgasms like, is it too hyped? So I think for you, you might be treating this as like a confirmation in your, I don't know what your personal journey is with religion, but in like your deconstructing of religion, if you're treating this orgasm as like a sign of I'm doing the right thing, like this is empowering and this, and if it doesn't feel like that yet, that you might actually be holding them too entwined with each other, that when it's not happening, then am I being punished? Is this like, was this too hyped? If they were right about this, does that mean they're right about whatever? Like that can be a whole can of worms that you can open up. They're just so intertwined there. And even just from the language you used, I think that they still are holding that for you. And the other thing I would say is like, it's about the tools. It's about how often you're doing it, but like how long are these sessions of you doing that? Because I'm the exact same way as Melissa. Like, oh, it took a fucking long time before you get up there. And it's just the first time that you finally like continue and let and keep going, because what else is going to happen? Like nothing bad is going to happen. And that's why, like, if you only have 10 minutes, say like, no, like clear out fucking like 2 hours, clear out 3 hours, like clear out some time. And if like you don't love the sound of a vibrator, or if you find that like maybe you enjoy like reading erotica and watching porn, but you don't enjoy it while you're actually doing it, like figure out what is like turning you on, and then figure out while you're, using a vibrator or whatever, at what point do you kind of stop being in the moment? Like at what point are you then starting to be like, okay, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Like, where do you kind of clock out? What's the first thing that distracts you? Is it that the room is messy? Is it that there are loud noises? Is it that like you're cold? Is it that you're too hot? Is it that you're uncomfortable? Like figure out what those external factors are. And if there's still like a level of like shame there, like you don't have to like wait in your journey post religious trauma to like until you're quote unquote like healed, recovered, or you've done all this work to like then eventually enjoy sex. Like it's not a reward you get at the end of it. Like it's an ongoing process. And so it's okay if when you're like masturbating is not the most sex positive, empowering thing. Like if it makes you feel more comfortable to like masturbate in the bathroom with the door shut and like play music so it feels quieter, and it can be that. Like it doesn't have to be like sex positivity doesn't have to be loud and public and proud. Like it's those everyday sort of things that's empowering. Just making the choice to like prioritize your pleasure is empowering. It doesn't have to be a large, it doesn't have to be like a large demonstration of that. It doesn't have to be what you think it means to be sex positive. So I remember for me, like, I'm going to get in the fucking bathtub. I'm going to turn like the bathtub faucet on. Like, that's going to be, you know, and I'm going to set aside some time. And I was like, and I'm going to fucking get there. Like, that's what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm. And for me, like, that was kind of how I heard, like, that was the best way you could do it while you're at home without getting caught. But I did it and it made me like numb. So it didn't work for me.
Yeah. It also depends on your bathtub. Like, it really, like, you have all these things of like, it really depends on like how these things are. But like, I think, and I found that like, I didn't love like master in like my bedroom with like the door open. Like, even if I'm living home alone, like it was, I wanted there to feel like and I don't have any religious trauma or anything like that, but like there was something that, whether it's comforting or it's like sex, whatever, like I wanted to be like a little more private in my own home with just me there. And that's also a good way to recognize like where you're inclined to, you know, do this. Might also give you some insight into like, okay, do I like to be near a window? Do I like to be out in my living room? Or do I like to be kind of like more to myself and on my own? And like, maybe I'll turn the lights down and I'll do this and blah, blah, blah. But like, orgasms are not overhyped. You'll know. And the fact that you've gotten close and then it just stops, like recognize in the moment, like what's happening there. Like, is it that like, it's when it's too much and then you stop. So then you know, okay, I'm going to try again afterwards. Like nothing bad is going to happen. And it's hard for our bodies to recognize that when we have like a foreign feeling. We have like fight, flight, or play dead. And then when there's like orgasm, that's not on there. And so like your body just kind of like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to react? And so you can even have a gut instinct of like pulling away or stopping or whatever that is. But then this is why I think you should set aside time. Don't consider that a failure. If you only build up to that level, start again. Like in that exact moment, like do that there and know that like enjoy the time that you're doing all of this. And so you're having a good time and you're not counting down the minutes trying to get to an orgasm, because the more you're thinking about that, you're running towards a destiny. Like you don't even know where you're running to. And it's really hard to get there when you don't know what you're trying to reach. So you have to kind of just enjoy the process and listen to your body, because your body's going to get you there. Your head's not going to get you there.
Yeah. And I also want to talk about, you said like getting tipsy or like being high. Tipsy, not good. I think that's more of when you're with someone to make you, if like for the first time or something where you're a little nervous, to relax you a bit. But it can also make you feel paranoid, and you don't.
Weed gets me paranoid too.
Because you're not like at your base level, you won't understand what's actually going on with your body when you don't understand, when you have no understanding to begin with, because you're working towards something that you've never experienced before. And then also with cannabis, there are like studies that show women it's more intense, but it depends on what you're doing, because there's so many. You say you're high. I'm guessing you're talking about cannabis, but whatever you're on, same. What I said about alcohol applies to it. But with cannabis, there are studies that shows that it's more intense, but it depends on what you're using. And also, like, you can use like lube that you can use that has it in it that will make it more intense on site, make blood flow better. But if you don't know where you're starting at, it can make it worse.
Yeah. I just, and like you said, if you're not sober in the moment, you're not going to be able to like really understand your cues and how you got there to begin with. And you don't want that to be the prerequisite to then getting there. Like,
and it'll just make you frustrated at the end.
Yeah. And you don't want it to, you don't need it to be more intense. It's going to take a while. Like I think like the actual like session that like I find, it was probably it's like an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours, 3 hours, a long time. And even then, like the next couple times, like it might still take you a couple of hours. And then depending on my mood now, I can be like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or 45 minutes. It's so much about like mental, also your environment, just where you're at, like mentally, and how you're feeling, how turned on you are, whatever it is, like you'll start to learn that about yourself the more that you do it. But the first couple times, like I think in movies, TV shows, porn, like people like think this is like a really quick thing. And it's not, especially when you're figuring it out on your own the first time. Everyone I know, it took them like both Melissa and I said, like probably like a year of trying to get there. And then the actual session were hours to get there. Like it's like running a marathon. So give yourself more than enough time to be able to get frustrated with yourself and then forgive yourself and then keep just getting back on that vibrator, getting back on that ride.
Or whatever it is that helps. You're going to have to buy a variety of things just to see what you like, how it feels.
And the last thing, I don't know how much you talk about sex with like other people in your life, but like, I remember when I was younger and this, not at that time, but I was just like, oh, so like you just like get a dildo and like you fuck yourself with a dildo and that's like when you're going to come. No. So like making sure that like, you know where your clit is, making sure that like you've confirmed that area, or you can try a little to the left, a little to the right, a little more forward, a little more back, and focusing on toys that are specifically just hitting that versus anything penetration wise. Because at least for me, the first time I was like trying to like all of that, especially solo, you can just feel like I felt that I could be a little bit more in my head because you're having to think about two things at once. Like if you want to deal with pressure and clit stuff, like that's two things you're thinking of at once. And one of those things, based on the angle I'm masturbating at, I'm not going to come from that alone. So I'm going to leave that for another day. That'll be my advanced move. And I'm just going to focus on one thing. And there are specific vibrators that are for just clit stuff. And that is where I would go. And then getting one that just vibrates that you can, but you don't have to stick it inside. You can use it anywhere, but it vibrates everywhere. And you can maneuver around, and it has a more of a larger surface area. And that's a great way for you to figure out where you have the most sensation. Because, you know, I always joke that like the clit, when we first talked about the clit suction once, I was like, I feel like I have to get a hand mirror. And I'm like trying to like snap a button together. I'm like, okay, where exactly are we going here? And that can feel a little more technical and less sexy.
Yeah, and I would say I'm an advanced user. And the first time I used the rose thing, I was like, what is the hype for this? Like, I don't understand it. This is doing nothing for me. But then when I figured it out, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, but it's
like starting over again. And you're still trying to figure things out. So like, and again, I know what it feels like. So if that's new for me, I wouldn't, I wouldn't start there.
Same.
But again, experiment with a few things when you figure out there's some things that people swear by and it does nothing for me. This is not for me.
Yeah.
But
I think in this stage you have to do like some sex toys are pure function and others like I think you should be getting one again, larger surface area, whole thing vibrates. You can feel sexy. You can really close your eyes. You don't have to worry about the technicality. Like love the rose, love the clit ones. But again, like the first 3 times I used it and even every time I use it now, but the first couple times I'm like, this doesn't do shit. But it's literally like I'm trying to snap a button on a bodysuit and I got to get the right angle. Like it's not sexy, but that's fine for me because I know where I'm getting to and that won't take me out of it because I know what I'm working towards. You don't.
What's up, everyone? It's Noah Daniels.
Hey, y'all. I'm JJ.
Hey, guys. It's Kat.
And we're your hosts of the Real Hauntings podcast, where we bring on guests who share their first-hand encounter ghost stories and supernatural experiences. Now on to the trailer.
I've been warned to not tell this story, but I think because of the way it ends, it's okay to tell this story, because some people say that with certain entities, to like speak of them or talk about them or in any way like portray them as powerful will attract them to other people. The creepiest thing about it to me is a lot of times it would wait for me to notice it. Like it would just lay its arm out like this and then I'd be like, where is it? And then I'd see it and then it would just slither back.
For more information on the Real Hauntings, Real Ghost Stories podcast, make sure you check out real.fm to learn more about our podcast and many other amazing podcasts.
So I would go for things that are more universal and work up to that.
Yeah. And go to a place that sells these things and talk to the people there. It might feel a little embarrassing, but they're experts. You can talk to them about, I like this. This made me feel like this, but I'm still not getting to X, Y, and Z. And just talk to them. That might be a cheaper way than for your parents finding out the other thing.
And I feel like for people who work at like sex toy shops, they are going to be relieved that that someone who's talking to them about like, what do they like? And I've never had an orgasm before. Like if I worked there and it's like a 22-year-old came in and was saying this, I would be like, oh my gosh, I just had to deal with like all of these pervy, gross old men asking me like, if they can stick this up my butt, and here you are trying to have your first orgasm, like I will become your mentor. Like I'm so happy to help you with this. Like that's, it's an empowering thing, especially for people with vaginas.
All right.
Best of luck. Happy orgasming.
All right. We're going to take another break. We're back. It's time for Don't Blame Them.
Yahoo! Don't Blame Them is where listeners will call in with their own advice pertaining to a call we have aired on a previous episode. So maybe they have some personal experience. Maybe they have dealt with it by proxy. They picked up on something that we didn't, or they just have thoughts of their own that they would like to share.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I am calling in for Don't Blame Them for the episode titled Dating a Virgin, and this is actually about that call. I am 23, and my pronouns are she, her. I wanted to touch on a few things from the original call. The caller said that this guy is, quote, very adamant about waiting to have sex and is uncomfortable around the subject, end quote. To me, that sounds like he has put up a boundary that he isn't willing to cross at this time. This isn't to say that he'll never want to have sex, but that seems to be where his mindset is now. If he has set up that boundary with the caller, then I think that she should consider if she wants to be with him if sex isn't a part of their relationship. Sexual compatibility is important, so if he doesn't want to have sex right now, then maybe he's not the right person for you. But I think it's important to focus on where his head is now and not what might happen in the future. Also, and I'm not trying to say that the caller is doing this, but I wanted to emphasize that his boundaries in regards to physical touch need to be respected the same way he should respect yours. I am someone who enjoys showing love through physical touch and often referred to myself in the past as a touchy-feely person, so I understand where the caller is coming from. But no one should be touched in any way without their consent, and everyone has a right to refuse any form of physical contact. Also, the caller asked if she should worry if there is, quote, something wrong, end quote, with this guy because he is a 26-year-old virgin. I'm not totally sure what she meant by that, but like Megan said, the idea that men are supposed to be super sexual comes from the patriarchy. Obviously, this guy doesn't fit into that stereotype, which is completely fine. Hopefully, this doesn't come off rude or mean or anything. Also, to reiterate, there is nothing wrong if you, caller, decide that you don't want to be in a relationship without sex. That's totally your choice, and you have the right to make that decision. Okay, that is all. I love you both so much. Bye!
Thanks. And good job on writing it down. I know that you're going through a tough time right now.
Why did I not know who it was until you said that? Is that who I'm thinking about?
Yeah.
Wait, you should just know that, like, if Melissa wasn't here, me with my Dory brain, I'm like, I don't know who this is. I could see this man walking on the street and I wouldn't know a thing.
It took you 3 times, and the first time you didn't write it down. The second time you wrote it down, I don't know what happened because I didn't look at the whole thing. And then the third time you wrote it down and took your time. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. And yeah, I co-sign all of that. And I love to hear from someone who self-identified as a touchy-feely person who has since, recognized that touch might still be a part of how they like to give and receive love, but recognizing that that's not something for other people that they just need to work around and consider. It's the actual exact opposite. As someone who's not a touchy-feely person, I would just like to say for my people, thank you, because I hate it. Like, I truly, truly hate it. And also, when I am like more touchy or whatever with people, like if I'm forced to do that, then, you know, it's never coming from me. It's coming from obligation. And when I give you a hug or whatever, that's coming from me. Like, it's so much better. It's so much better. I enjoy it so much more. Except sometimes I do hug if I'm awkward or uncomfortable. And it's just because I like am trying to think of what I should say. I'm like, oh, we can have a hug. And I'm like, buying time.
See, I'm fine with it from other people if I'm comfortable with them, but it's hard for me to give it back.
Yeah. I will like hug some people when I see them.
Yeah, never me. Unless it's been a long time.
Yeah, but like,
it's once a year. We're good.
I was going to say, why would we do that to each other? Like,
I know. We
do it.
I mean,
exactly.
We don't want to give it.
No, we do it when we both want to. And
yeah,
I wouldn't want any more than that. Like, it's
like, why? But good call. Thank you, person.
Thank you, person. I have no idea who it is. If you want to call in for an upcoming episode, give us a voicemail. Call us and leave us a voicemail, 310-694-0976. International listeners, send a audio message to meghanpodcast@gmail.com. If you have an update, if you've been a caller on a previous episode and we have given you advice and you would like to let us know what happened afterwards, what's the current haps of the situation, shoot us an email at meghanpodcast@gmail.com and we can schedule a time, especially now that we might have some people might have a little bit more free time in their schedules, or we're happy to like take updates as we can get them at this point. Like, we'd love to have you on like a video, but if you want to record a second thing for us and you want to do that, you want to send us something, we'd love to hear an update.
Just be thorough and make sure that you answer. If we had any questions that we asked when we were giving advice, please make sure you answer those questions, because we're going to still have it.
Exactly, because we don't know anymore. Half the time, I don't even remember what I'm like. What was this on? What was this about? I need to jog my memory. And if you want to call in for Don't Blame Them, same number as well. And that is it. If you want to leave us a 5-star review, you might be greeted in your sleep by an angel who will give you money underneath your pillow like a tooth fairy, or will give you wonderful succubus dreams if that's what you desire. Because you never know what good is going to happen from leaving a review. Nothing bad's going to happen unless you leave a bad review, and then I can't promise they're going to be positive succubus dreams. But we've got people in high places who could give you those dreams.
Yeah,
we can make a Fiverr account. And if anybody is curious about what that reference is to, it is now the perfect time for you to follow the succubus saga. So if you search Don't Blame Me Succubus, you will find all of the parts. And I encourage you to listen from the beginning. And you're welcome for the journey you're about to go on. I think it's one of our most underrated sagas and on the podcast.
Yeah. And thank you, person, for sharing.
You know who you are.
You know who you are.
We love you. We adore you. And we wish nothing but all of the good things for you.
Yeah.
Cool. Follow us on socials everywhere and leave us nice comments on things, on our personal accounts, on the podcast account. Tell us something cool. I don't know.
Happy New Year. Next time you hear from us, it will be a new year. 22.
And you get to listen to Melissa's New Year's hot takes on this week's episode of But Am I Wrong? Where I was going to make a reference to it, but I realized that comes out later, and I don't want to spoil one of the funniest sentences I ever heard. And I laughed very hard. So stay tuned for that. And I guess you won't, we'll see, you'll see us this year. But then for this episode, for this podcast, you'll see us next year.
Bye.
Goodbye. Don't Blame Me is a production by me.
Executive produced by Melissa DeMonts and Diamond Imprint Productions. Edited by Coco Lawrence. Production assistance by Melanie D. Watson. Music by Ryan Hunter and Giacomo Picasso.
Merry Christmas, everybody. My name is Eric Peterson. I'm here with my good buddy,
Danny Jordan.
And we are the co-hosts of the Christmas. Let me try that again. Merry Christmas, everybody. My name is Eric Peterson. I'm here with my good buddy,
Danny Jordan.
And we are the hosts of Christmas Countdown Show.
We're so thrilled to be bringing the merriment to you all this holiday season.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be massively merry, gigantically jolly, fantastically festive, as some people might say, Eric. We are all about alliterations, and we are all about Christmas spirit. On Christmas Countdown, we love to count down our top 10 favorite things related to the holiday season. That could be food, movies, music, everything that we all love about this massively merry good time. So wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you click that subscribe button. Eric, are you ready?
I am ready, and we hope that you are too. Merry Christmas, everybody. Let's go. It should be like, let's go, ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
Hi, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Spate. We were both on a little show you might know called Supernatural.
It had a pretty good run, 15 seasons, 327 episodes.
And though we have seen, of course, every episode many times, we figured, hey, now that we're wrapped, let's watch it all again.
And we can't do that alone. So we're inviting the cast and crew that made the show along for the ride. We've got writers, producers, composers, directors, and we'll of course have some actors on as well, including some certain guys that played some certain pretty iconic brothers.
It was kind of a little bit of a left field choice in the best way possible.
The note from Kripke was, he's great, we love him, but we're looking for like a really intelligent Duchovny type.
With 15 seasons to explore, it's going to be the road trip of several lifetimes. So please join us and subscribe to Supernatural Then and Now.